The lungs possess both alveolar macrophages and dendritic cells, and can attract monocytes from the blood, which can then differentiate into macrophages and dendritic cells. There are different classes of each of these types of cells, so for the purpose of these videos, we'll just lump them together and generally call them macrophages. In these slides of a patient who suffered viral pneumonia, you can see how large these cells can be, much larger than the surrounding cells. In general, these cells are performing two types of functions. They are phagocytes. They can perform phagocytosis and ingest other cells. This could be bacteria and other microbes. This could be larger infectious agents, even yeast, which are large cells. But they can also ingest large cells such as an infected cell, a neutrophil, which has ingested bacteria on its own. And they can also ingest some of the debris which might result from infection and dying cells. In some cases, they may even get larger with multiple nuclei. So separate cells may fuse, and this can be a response to some viruses, or this can be to allow them to attack a larger foreign object. See, even something like a splinter might cause them to fuse and thus better attack this large object. But also they can have multiple nuclei after undergoing cell division, the mitosis part where they replicate the nucleus, but that cytokinesis, the replication of the cytoplasm, does not follow. So in these images you can see multinucleate macrophages in a viral pneumonia case. A second major function that these cells perform is that they can interact with other cells, releasing local hormones known as cytokines. Most importantly, after they ingest a microbe, they can then move part of the microbe to their cell surface and do what's called present it. So these are antigen presenting cells. They can essentially say, hey, look what I just killed. And this can signal the T lymphocytes, which then can go around and give permission to other immune cells to make antibodies or to attack antigens, etc. So they are extremely important in their antigen presenting role and just signaling cells in general. And in these images, you can see that there are a number of body cells which are contacting these large, whether they be macrophages, monocytes, or dendritic cells, and presumably they are communicating with local hormones in these images. In some infections, there are negative aspects to what happens with these macrophages, monocytes, dendritic cells. Some viruses can actually weaken their response, so these cells are less likely to perform phagocytosis. The receptors are less active, and they are less ability to kill ingested microbes after some viral infections, so that their response is weaker. This is why after some viral pneumonia cases, a bacterial pneumonia may follow, because macrophages are less able to fight against these bacteria. It was observed in some COVID patients that a positive feedback loop could become life-threatening, in which macrophages secreted signals which attracted T lymphocytes, and then T lymphocytes in the lungs then induced macrophages to release even more inflammatory signals and enhance the inflammation response. The quote cytokine storm, cytokines once again are local hormones including inflammatory hormones, contributed to the 20 to 40% mortality observed in those who had severe cases of pneumonia during COVID infections.